For someone who's considering themselves as an accounting professional, it's an absolutely amazing thing to have on your resume and as a building block to any business career. I think I would tell myself, if I could go back at the beginning of my professional career, don't be afraid to speak up and take risks. But you gotta believe in yourself or no one else will believe in you. So I've been working now for 25 years plus, so it's been a long time, and it's a career path that I've really enjoyed. And sometimes I've stumbled into roles, and other times I've really worked my way up to get to where I really want to get to. So I graduated from Wilfrid Laurier University, and at that point I thought, okay, I really want to get into the workforce, and I was so career driven, so career hungry, that I thought I had two routes at that point in time in my life to take. Do I go the public accounting route, because I knew I was good at accounting and I wanted to pursue accounting, to do a CPA, or do I actually go into industry right away and then pursue a CMA designation at the time? So because I was so career driven and the two options were open to me, I thought in those few years that I would be gaining public accounting experience to get a CA might put me back. I thought, I'm so career driven, I'm gonna go right into industry and I'm gonna try to get as much experience there and do my CMA at the same time. So that's the option I ended up choosing. I got recruited into a leadership development program at a company called Nortel, and what a great opportunity. It was such a large company and really focused on developing strong talent out of university. So as with a leadership program, and a lot of big companies do these leadership programs, they try to rotate you in amongst many finance jobs over the first few years just to get you that experience you need so that they can really leverage you to become a leader in the organization at one point in time. And then I decided to actually start my own business after coming out of that company, and I didn't go very far with it, but I was going to open up a brewery. I started working for Hill Street Beverage Company. I've been there now for 4 years. Hill Street Beverage Company is a cannabis-infused beverage company, which was part of the draw for me, being in a nascent industry where the product doesn't exist today, and you've got to take it from nothing to something, right? So I looked at that opportunity and thought, okay, great, this is going to be huge. It's going to be, multi-billion-dollar opportunity at some point in time, and I'm starting from the ground up. I love making a difference and getting involved with things much more and outside of finance, because I feel like I've developed those skills and I have that to offer in terms of value. I think I would tell myself, if I could go back at the beginning of my professional career, don't be afraid to take risks. Because I think I may have doubted myself being a new grad coming out of school, that you don't necessarily haven't earned a seat at the table. But you gotta believe in yourself or no one else will believe in you, right? So you might not have had years of experience, but you have an education and you have an opinion. So I think I would have told myself, don't be afraid to speak up and take risks. And to be honest, I had some great ideas of products I wanted to launch back then, and I was a little nervous, having no experience, no money, but you know what? Some of the best businesses are built on entrepreneurial minds, right? So I think I would have told myself, be a risk taker. It's okay. There might be some downturns and there might be things that don't go your way, but overall, you're a smart individual and you got to believe in yourself or no one else will. For someone who's considering themselves as an accounting professional, it's an absolutely amazing thing to have on your resume and as a building block to any business career. I actually hire people in my current role into roles that have nothing to do with accounting, or they've moved away from accounting, but knowing that they've got that pedigree, that experience and so forth, that they've gone through that formal training and been able to develop those skill sets of just core fundamentals that you need to understand as a business, makes you a strong business partner in many areas, in operations, in sales and so forth. So, and just, even to become a CEO of a company. So I think as someone who's considering accounting and not sure if you want to necessarily do that, there are accountants that are very happy to stay as a controller and continue to make sure the numbers are on point and that you've got your filings delivered and you've passed an audit, and a lot of respect to those types of controllers and accountants. But then you've got also accountants that are not that. So don't vision that accountants are just bean counters. They're not. Accountants can be so much more. So there are accountants that have taken their degrees, gone into finance roles, such as myself as the CFO, and then added a lot more value as a business partner, not limited to just making sure that your financials are correctly stated and that you're following IFRS, which are very important fundamentals. But because of that knowledge, you're able to add value and take the business in a direction that someone may not have considered. So when I'm hiring for accounting roles specifically, I'm looking for someone who has an accounting designation, because I know that they've gone through that formal training and I want to make sure that they fully understand the accounting. You know, having in my own career gone through, having worked for 25 years plus, I've gone through Canadian GAAP, US GAAP, and now IFRS. And looking for that today, having the IFRS skills are very important. Technology and accounting is constantly changing. So I'm looking for someone who understands how to use the ERPs, the enterprise resource planning systems, to draw information out, and also that accounting background to then be able to analyze it. So when I'm looking for someone, I need to know that they know how to analyze those numbers, but they're smart. They're not just looking at it as a number, that the number means something, that it actually represents something in the business that has an operational impact. One of my favorite interview questions I love to ask candidates, and more this is because it shows them a little bit about themselves as well. I like to ask them, what is it that you feel that you need to work on? And you get a lot of people who might say, oh, you know, I'm good at everything, which might be a natural thing, but none of us are perfect, right? And I actually like when people can draw on, okay, you know what? I've struggled with this, but this is the way I've manage that situation. I always like to look at how people take it to the next level. Not only that they've got a weakness or a challenge that they've faced, but what they did to solve it. For the most part, in terms of career, I always think it's very fluid. So you are going to hit bumps in the road that are not going to go the way you wanted. But I always look at it that, you know what, there's just something behind the next door. So don't let it get you down. It might not be the role you were hoping for at that moment in time, but things happen for a reason. And keep looking, don't settle, because the right opportunity waits for you and you can make that happen. Like, I actually believe that, you know, it's one thing to wait for the opportunity, but if while you're waiting, make it happen, which is one of the reasons why I started pursuing opening up my own brewery, which then led to me meeting the CEO of my current role. So, you know, things have a funny way of working out. I 100% believe in work-life balance. It is one of the most important things I look for in my career and in my life, because I think life is too short to just fully engross and spend 70, 80, 90 hours a week at work. I would say early in my career, before I had children, I was like that because I was so career driven, and for me, that was work-life balance, because I actually realized a lot of personal self-satisfaction by throwing myself into work. But as I got older and had family and kids, I just realized the value and what I bring to life is just really taking those children and molding them into becoming their own human, independent individuals, right? So I feel like me spending that time with them is so precious. It's very limited. So I make sure that when I'm working, that I make sure when they're coming home from school, I'm available. And if I need to get back on later at night, I'll do it after they've gone to bed. So that work-life balance is really important to me, to try to find something that gives you both, because I find I'm also more productive in my job if I'm happier, right? If I'm stressed and not happy, then I'm not going to perform well. I need to feel that balance. And sometimes that balance is just spending it with my kids. Sometimes it's just going out for a run or working out. Just anything to rejuvenate myself is really important for me to perform better as an individual in any aspect of my life. So definitely COVID has changed the way we work. The fortunate thing for me was that because I'd worked in a telecoms company and a high-tech company early, I had actually started working from home very early in my career, where we had our own IP telephony product out there. So I was able to work remotely at, you know, probably at least, I would say, 10 years now. So when COVID hit, it didn't have a significant impact on me. But part of this company that I started with, we don't actually have a physical office. We never have. We have manufacturing facilities that we're building, but we don't have an office. So when I'm hiring for individuals too, it's one of the first questions I ask: how do you feel about working remotely? Most of the time right now, because we've come through COVID, everyone's already done it and they're good with it. Some individuals, miss that water cooler conversation and that building of the team camaraderie. So we make sure that we make an effort to get teams together so that we can have those types of meetings while still being able to work remotely effectively. There's so many tools out there to do it effectively now. We used to just be on conference calls so you could just hear people. Now you're doing video calls, so you feel like you're still interacting with people and you could still read body language. There clearly is a difference, but I think there's a lot of success to be had there in terms of now tapping into skills and talent that might be in different cities across the country that you may not have been able to tap into before. In terms of kind of just completely going off the grid and working and living in another country, and working from there, I think that would totally be me. That's the type of person I am. I could see myself, moving down south somewhere and doing my job from there. Having kids makes that a little bit more challenging because they've got school, and I don't necessarily agree with the remote school option because kids need more of that socialization and development than I think adults do. But I do know of some professionals that have kids that are just under 1 year old, and at that point it doesn't matter, where they've literally gone across to Europe and they're doing their job 100% remotely here in Canada. So when I'm recruiting, one of the first things I do, even from a screening perspective, is do they have an accounting designation? What is their education? Like, have they come from a school that is well recognized in the business space? To me, that's really important because I know that they've at least met those basic qualifications. Then for me, experience is monumental. So I'm pretty much building most of the aspects of a resume. I'm very picky about who I bring on because I want to make sure that they at least pass the basic so I can get the technical accounting and experience. And then when I'm interviewing them, I look more for the interpersonal and the cultural fit. In terms of experience, what I'm looking for, and it depends on the role, but when I've hired for controllership roles, I'm looking for that they've had IFRS experience with new pronouncements that are out there, and so they're staying on top of it. The fact that they've got strong ERP experience, because there's a lot of different technologies out there that offer a lot of capability, and being able to pull that information is really important. And I'm looking for people who have had experience in similar industries to where we're at. We're in a highly regulated industry, so people that come from environments where there's not only CPG experience, because it is important to understand that kind of background, but also understanding the fact that government regulations can actually make businesses so much more complex. I think for someone coming into the country to be an accountant, I think one of the most important skills I would say for them that stands out in a resume is for them to go and get some, established ERP experience, to take those training courses in NetSuite or SAP or whatever. Those are highly valued out there right now. There's not a lot of people that have them, and you're almost securing yourself a job in that field with that type of skill set. I know it's hard to get into specific industries without that experience, but something like that you could learn on your own, I think would be highly beneficial to the individual. So I actually personally really like hiring kind of young, hungry, ambitious people, because I kind of see myself in that, because I know that what they're capable of. So even though they may not have years of experience, I feel like in a few years, you can really shine if you let yourself shine. So when I'm looking for that specifically, is that someone who, when I'm interviewing them, they have researched my company inside out. They give me recommendations in an interview of, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? To me, those people stand out because I never asked them to do that. That is beyond interview preparation in my mind. I probably wouldn't have done that back in the day when I was interviewing. It really makes an individual just stand out. And I realize if they can do that for an interview, imagine what they could do for your company. One of the things I like to preach to my kids, to be honest, and I try to preach it to them because I value it very much in life, is to lift while you climb, right? So, if regardless of what you're doing in life, if it's climbing the corporate ladder or if my kids' activities of whatever they're doing, if you help people beneath you, it makes you stronger as a team, as a person. Instead of kind of walking over people to get where you're gonna get to, make sure you lift them. It'll make you feel better as a person, and as a community, you'll feel better. So early in my career, I would say I made a pretty big interview mistake. So this is while I was still starting to feel my way around the space and industry. They actually had a lot of people coming to campus to interview, and I was going through a lot of interviews at the exact same time. So it was a lot to stay on top of, but what I learned from that is even though there might be a large quantity of interviews you're going through, you still have to commit to each one as being extra special as the role and do all the research. Like I went into this interview, had not researched the company, didn't know much about the industry, and it showed. And it, to be honest, it was super embarrassing for me. And but you learn from those mistakes, and never again did I make that same mistake. I think having gaps in your resume are totally fine and normal. Like, I mean, I've got gaps in my resume when I took time off to have both my children. So I think not trying to cover it up and trying to make it seem like it's a flaw to you as an individual is probably the first thing it's important to remember. Be honest, explain why there was a gap and what you learned during that period. I mean, you might have not been working for a company per se, but you might have been developing yourself at that point in time, focusing on some, extracurricular activities or hobbies or doing something to grow yourself educationally. So I think, just speak to that like you'd speak to any other experience, what you got through that time.